Tiffany D. Loftin is here from Los Angeles. How do you get what side? How do you get inspired to do this? Like, when do you wake up? Was there an inflection point? Was there a moment, a road to Damascus, where young Tiffany was like, I have to do something?
Yeah. There were two streets that sort of collided towards an intersection. So the first street was I applied to UCLA and I did not get into UCLA. The only UC school I got into, there's a different application system in California. You apply to one application, you apply to essentially all 12 of the UC schools. And I wanted to go to UCLA because it was close to home. I did not get into any of the UCs except for UC Santa Cruz. And I saw the pamphlets and stuff and I was like, I'm not going there. It's all white. There's nothing but deer. I don't see no Black people on this thing. It's too far from home. I'm not familiar, so I'm not going to go. And praise God for the Black Student Union at every single school around the country, because the Black Student Union organized a student-initiated outreach program for admitted high school Black seniors. They took them for free from wherever they were. They picked them up and brought them to the school for 3 days for free, showed them who our professors were, showed them where they should live on campus, where they can get their hair done in the city, because it was predominantly white, all the fun things. And we got to really build with the current students that were there. It was after that trip that I decided, okay, I'm going to go to Santa Cruz. But even then, if it outside of the Black Student Union and the volunteers, the full-time students who were volunteers, the university, I don't feel like they outreached to me. I don't feel like they tried to retain me. I don't feel like they sought me out to like find out what talents I was interested in or had and could give back to the university. None of that was there. So I'm at the school that I worked really hard to get to. Didn't have any family contribution. My mother was a single mother, and I was the first to go to college out of my siblings. So my mom couldn't really teach me how to do the financial aid, the FAFSA, and the personal statement, et cetera. So I worked really hard to get to college, got to college. And then the regents, the decision makers of the University of California, they rose our tuition 32%. And so I'm tripping, but I just took out more loans because at the end of the day, I got to be here. I got to graduate. My mama told me this is what I got to do. But there were two students who were undocumented in my dormitory on the floor. And Karen, pay attention to the only reason why I even cared and found out about this being a political issue is because the two guys who were undocumented, they had this video game called Guitar Hero. It was when Guitar Hero was brand new. It was fresh out the game. And I was a beast. I was in their room all the time playing the game. And when they had to leave, they had to take the game with them. And that's where my question, I was like, why do you have to leave? Like, why? We all have to take out loans to take out more loans. And they said to me, Tiffany, we're undocumented. So we're already paying out-of-state tuition. If we stay, we literally can't afford to be here. And I said, well, that's not fair. So a gentleman named Victor Sanchez, who I'm still friends with to this day, was doing a dorm storm. They walk around the dormitories and pass out postcards or flyers. This particular guy came to my door and said, can you sign this postcard for this legislation called the DREAM Act? And I was like, I don't know what that is. And where's this postcard going? Then he made the correlation. And I said, wait a minute, there are some students who are undocumented on my floor who had to leave. And if this bill would have passed, they would have been able to pay in-state tuition. Maybe they would stay and then maybe I could play Guitar Hero. So those two worlds colliding for me were my entry points into like understanding government, understanding politics. It was the reason why I went to Sacramento for the first time to meet with legislators. It was the reason why I went to Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, to meet with students across the country to talk about the agenda to make college more affordable and accessible. And it just kind of like snowballed from there. But in my senior year of college, I was vice president twice at my school. And I should say I went to a historically white university. And there were 2.8% African-American students there out of 18,000. So I was definitely a minority at UC Santa Cruz. I was vice president for 2 years. And then my last year I was running for president. The campaign season is the spring, but it starts in February, Black History Month. And somebody hung a noose on my campus while I was running for student body president. And I found out about the noose while I was in Sacramento lobbying to make sure that they didn't increase our tuition. And when I fight for students and I fight for access and affordability, I'm fighting for every color. Now I got somebody at my school threatening my very existence because of the color of my skin, but I'm actually fighting for whoever that was to make sure that their tuition doesn't go up. So it was it was a cycle of things, but my experience in Santa Cruz, I'm so thankful that that is the school that I went to in my experience. I wouldn't change it for the world. And I raised a lot of hell, but that school invites me back all the time. And I've been a professor, a graduation speaker, a board member, all the things. I love UC Santa Cruz, but that's how I got to, that's how I got to the work that I'm doing now.
And the entry point is personal. It's always relationships. I remember the first year on the air, I read this Washington Post story, and they had a survey that said 3/4 of white people have no relationship with Black people. 3/4 of white people in America. And I'm not talking about the nanny or the person that at work. Right. I'm talking about relationships, like you playing garage, whatever that is, that video game. But you're playing, but you're also communicating, and you see them as human beings, not just, undocumented students. They are your friends. And I think, that stunned me, because, I was like, how is it possible that you could live in America and not have a relationship with somebody that doesn't look like you? And then
it's not that impossible to me, because, and I didn't think about it. And then I went to work for the AFL-CIO. I worked at the AFL-CIO. I was the National Racial Justice Program coordinator. And I was there right after the murder of Michael Brown. Let me tell you a quick story. And this is how I know white people don't, it's all about proximity. And if you're a traveler and you've been around America, there are pockets where you will realize, oh, y'all don't really have Black people still in these areas around the country. I did a training in Ohio I've never told nobody who the union was, but I'm gonna say it now because I'm so far removed. It was the Auto Workers Union. I did a training for racial justice for them in Ohio. And my training was about racial justice and equity and how to see it better in the workplace and how unions can support the community. There was this particular white woman who was pregnant in the workshop. And I'm probably the youngest person in the workshop, by the way. So there was this white woman who was pregnant in the workshop. I did my entire workshop, and I had a line of people after telling me, oh my God, that was so helpful. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for teaching us these words we didn't know. I have this issue. Can you help me figure out how I can strategize and save the world? I want to be better at being a white ally. It was wonderful. Cool. This white lady was pregnant. She was the last one in the line. And something just felt off about her, but I was like, I'm just gonna, whatever it is, I'm gonna be graceful, because I'm a trainer. I have to facilitate peace. She walks up to me and she says, I actually thought your entire workshop was horrible. I thought the training was disrespectful. I felt personally offended. And so I was thrown aback, and I said, white women, you can't tell me you're offended by the information that I gave you about my people. She was pregnant, and she said, I know I'm a white woman, but I'm a Black mother, because I'm having a Black man's child. And you didn't talk about my experience in your training. And you need to cover the hardships and the racism that I will go through raising a Black son. And that moment, I was like, oh yeah, 3/4 of the white people in this country don't know Black people. And she might've slept with a Black man, but she clearly don't know the politics of what's going on.
So how do we come together? Every day I'm challenged with, the work that you guys are doing, the work that you have always done, the work that you're going to continue to do. And this country's not, this world, because it's not just, the supremacy ideology, is across the globe. This notion that somehow, because of melanin or lack of melanin, a person is better or worse, or more intelligent, less intelligent, more worthy, not worthy. How do we get together? People calling for unity with the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and I'm like, y'all ain't fixed the cancer. Cancer's still here. Y'all, you could put a salve on it, but it's still raging. Ain't been no chemo, no operation to eradicate it, and there's no treatment.
Yeah, getting healthcare, right?
Thank you. So what what do you see? And how do we get there?
Let me say something about this unity piece first, so you know why I'm saying my answer. I actually don't agree with this agenda of unity at all. It's actually pretty whack is the word I'm going to use, to me. And the reason why I say that is because there are literally people in this country who, for all the reasons, don't believe that I should be able to choose what I'm going to do with my own body. There are people who literally have prejudice against folks just because of how they dress, how they look, who they worship. There are people in this country who still don't understand the concept of immigration reform. They don't have values around immigration reform. They don't have values around immigration. There are so many people who have fundamental, deep beliefs that I think are absolutely stupid, but that's a different conversation. But for whatever reason, and I don't think that my existence as an organizer should use my time and talent to find unity with the people who don't even believe in my very existence. I don't think that. I don't wish evil on them, but I am saying that that is not my agenda. And I actually get really irritated when I hear the president for the 1100 million time talk about unity, because there are so many people in this country that need help. And there are so many people who do not believe that they should get the help that they need. And so to find unity with those folks, to me, is a waste of time. Like, let's just help our people and let's do all we can to help those people. So that's a narrow way of looking at it. But I'm just like, Biden needs to stop saying unity and just do what we need him to do. Cancel student loan debt, please. Just stop with the unity stuff. So there's that. Proximity is important in this work. Relationships, not networking, but relationships are important in this work. And I look at organizing power on a scale. I've been trained to look at it in a scale. There are things that we do that are like self-help and community service work. So my brother Trey the Truth, who is a rapper in Houston, Texas, who's traveling around right now, who's the baddest brother ever. He is finding ways to take people who are homeless, who have skills in plumbing, and pay them to fix the plumbing in somebody's house. He is donating water and food. He is finding clothes and toys. He's doing all these things for the community and recruiting people to buy trucks and moving. He's doing that. That's self-help, right? It's people in the community helping other people. He worked with Beyonce to do some cool stuff. So that's the self-help work. Then it's a spectrum. Then there's the education work. And the education work is like, for example, what I had to do in Ohio for the training for the pregnant white woman who thinks she's a Black mother. And so I do these trainings to educate folks and expose them to how policy impacts communities, and then give them language so that they know how to talk about it, right? And then I tell them what they can't say. Like, here's language that you can't use. So that's the education piece. Or there's the education piece that's simply like, I posted to my IG yesterday, these 3 Black candidates who are running for office, Nina Turner, Gary Chambers, and Miss Wiley, who's running for mayor in New York. And I wanted folks to get the information, right? Like, I wanted folks to see, here's some candidates that are running, elections are not over. There's always the education point to it. And then the end of the spectrum is advocacy and lobbying and can I cuss on get that fucking shit up, right? And so that's the end of it. Thank you. And so that's the end of it. But it doesn't go in an order. It's that we have to do all 3 at the same time. And talking about, like, how do we heal this country, or where is this country supposed to go, when we invest in local organizing that is able to cultivate a community of people who can do those 3 things at the exact same time and not wait for a national organization to give it to them, or a political party to bring them together, or a sports team to bring them together, but people or a church to bring them together, which churches do really great work. But we can't wait on those folks. We have to build local community and organizing. And that only happens when we invest in the local level, right? Like, how many folks can talk about what's happening in Ferguson in 2021? How many folks can talk about what's happening in Oakland after they just let the officers go who killed Oscar Grant? Like, what can we talk about that's there? Not to say that work is not happening there, but this national idea that we have to bring people together in unity is false. Like, it's not going to happen. It happens when we expose people to the proximity of what's happening in their communities. I remember seeing this really incredibly inspiring video of a Latinx brother, I think that may be how he identifies, who was set to get deported. And so the ICE came to his house and they were about to bust through the door and take him. And white people from the community came around the house and were holding hands around the house so that ICE couldn't get in. And I think it was his partner, the wife, she started crying, thanking the community for doing that. And like, the ICE wasn't gonna bust through white people to get to the dude just to deport this one guy. So it was a standoff. and they ended up leaving. And I don't know if they ever came back. It doesn't seem like it, but that type of solidarity only happens not because you watch Joe Biden talk about unity. It doesn't happen because you watch police officers put their neck on George Floyd. Not all the time. It happens because the community is doing self-education, doing self-help, and then doing advocacy around an agenda that matters to them. And I think if we do all three of those things through local leadership, we'll see a lot more changes very quickly that will inspire other changes around the country.
I love you. Tiffany D. Loftin. Is that why you left? No, I reached out to you in frustration and also adoration, because I've been watching you move. And I was frustrated because the NAACP, I felt, has been impotent for the last 40 years. And then I saw you, and Eljoy Williams, of course, part of our family. She's in Brooklyn, and all throughout the country, you have local NAACP folk who are amazing. But is that why you left? Because there's more work that can be done, and sometimes institutions hold us back because they have to answer to a checklist of things that actually get in the way of progress?
I left for two reasons. I think I've left for three. One of the reasons, and there's no priority to this, one of the reasons why I left is because it was actually time for me to go. In my current role is national director, which ends tomorrow. There's an incredibly talented brother named Wisdom Cole who's been on the team with me since I started. Wisdom Cole is one of the smartest, most strategic organizers. And if you ask me, and I don't care, somebody's going to get upset that I said this, he basically helped run the entire civic engagement program for the NAACP when they didn't know what they were doing. And so he is a talented brother. And I said, and he's 27. I said, he needs to be the next national director. He cannot do that if I'm here. I need to get out the way. And I say this, and I preach it. I mean it. We rent our titles. Our titles are rented. The people who came before me rented the title. They passed it down. The title is not who I am. And it's not, it never has been who I am. And it's not mine. Right. And so I was there for 3 years. It just marked 3 years, February 13th. And it was time for me to pass it to him. And I love Wisdom. He's so incredible. So that was one reason. Another reason why I left is because of what you said. And I love the NAACP. And I've said this to everybody, thinking about the legacy of the organization. I have not yet digested how much of an honor it was to serve at that type of to serve at the end, not even that type, because there's no other type like it, that association. It was an honor. Like, to think about my foremothers and forefathers and ancestors who served and went through the NAACP, to watch Sylvia's love in the NAACP get referenced in the movie, or to watch Judas and the Black Messiah and the NAACP get mentioned in that movie, even if it's right or wrong reasons, to watch 42 with Jackie Robinson and the NAACP get mentioned in the movie. I'm like, that's dope as hell. I worked for that organization. That to me just speaks volumes. But I am looking for where I can best be of service. And I don't think I have found that yet. I don't know if I'll be there for a long time or a short time. My joy comes from working with and for people. My entire career, if people have been paying attention, when I graduated college, I was the CEO and president of a membership student organization. I went on to leave that to work for a teachers union. I went to go work for the other teachers union. Then I went to work for all the labor unions and the AFL-CIO. Then I worked for Dream Defenders. Then I worked with the Ohio Student Association, and I built these institutions of power that worked on specific campaigns. And then I got pulled to come to the NAACP, which is a membership Black young organization. And when I feel like, you're gonna get me in trouble. When I feel like I no longer agree with or match the direction or the future of where the work is going, not the people, but the work, then I know it's time to leave. And I'm cool with that. People have actually been calling me and being like, don't do this. This is a crazy idea. You're leaving and you don't have a job next. You don't know what you're doing next. And I'm like, you have no idea who I think I am.
I was going to say, have they met you, Tiffany?
Right? Girl, you have no idea who I think I am. I actually have been preparing for this for a minute, promising. So that's the second reason. The third thing, to be honest with you, is I'm tired. I'm not burnt out. I'm tired. last year, when March 11th rolled around and Disneyland and the NBA shut down, I was like, oh, I'm about to get a break. It's going to be amazing. I can live wherever I want to live. I was talking to this guy at the time. I was like, I'm about to spend time with him. It's going to be great. And the work went from 100, and I thought I was going to go to like 40 to 2,000. I became everybody's therapist, all my students. I became the coach for my staff and had to be the therapy for them. Our check-ins weren't even about the work no more. It was about how tired they were and how their family has COVID. And I was like, yo, like, where am I? And then I had to take care of my family. And my mom was on it. She got fired last year because of the pandemic and she didn't have a job, so I had to care for her. And then the elections, there were 45 people running for president. And then and I wanted Bernie and we didn't get Bernie. We got Biden, so I had to fight for that. It was so much. And then I remember we didn't get the results on election day. It was like that Saturday we got the election. And then Breonna Taylor and then George Floyd and then Ahmaud Arbery and then Nina Pop, like with all the things happening. And then Trump, all the things Trump. And then it was Saturday after the election, we found out that Biden had won. And then we found out that there was a runoff in Georgia. And so I promised Tiffany D. Loftin last summer, I was like, listen, I know you're tired. I literally had a conversation with myself and I'm about to cry. I said, I know you're tired. I know you're tired. I know you've been in the house. I know you want to travel. You didn't get to do what you want to do for your birthday. I know this job is wearing you thin. I know that you're on Zooms 24/7. I know that you're speaking and talking to these people, and I know you want the break. I promise you, I will give you the break after the election. I promise you. And I didn't know what that looked like, but I made that promise to myself. And then Georgia happened. And then I went to Georgia for a month and a half and organized in Georgia. So I delayed the promise that I gave myself. So when this year, when January, I think it was 3rd or 7th rolled around and the Georgia election was over, I just felt the exhale. And then they were like, okay, great, image awards. Okay, great, hiring. Okay, great, more civic engagement. Okay, great, programs. Okay, great, talk to people on Zoom. And I was like, everybody stop. I quit. I'm done. I'm leaving. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I want to be. I don't know if my work is going to still be at the intersection of young people and Black folks. I don't know if I'm still going to do civic engagement work. I don't know if I'm going to focus on student debt for a while. I don't know if I want to go be in theater. Like I used to do theater for 8 years. I don't know if you know that. I used to do theater and arts for 8 years. Whatever it is, but I'm going to give myself 2.5, 3 weeks to sit on the beach somewhere and do nothing and process and cry and talk to my therapist and run on the beach and swim and do all the things that I would do if racism was not in existence. And then I will think about it and I will come back and then I will start looking for a job. I've been applying to places and people reached out to me, but I am not in a rush. That's why I left the NAACP.
I just want to sit in that for a minute. You posted something about Diane Nash calling you. And I imagine 50 years from now, I want to talk about that. 50 years from now, somebody's going to say, Tiffany D. Loftin just called me and the day is good. I think that's going to happen. Tell me about Diane Nash and what she means, because I think, you know, we're doing all this reclamation of history. And I don't think, you know, anybody should be lost. But the Diane Nashes of the world, you know, whose shoulders you stand on. Talk just a little bit about her and why it was important and how she called you. How'd she even get your number?
I know. So there are elders from the Student Nonviolent Action Coordinating Committee, pardon me, who I am so blessed to have relationships with. Cortland Cox is one of them, who I absolutely adore, and I get on his nerves and I love it. Charlie Cobbs, who wrote the book, This Nonviolent Shit Will Get You Killed, which was the inspiration behind the title of the plenary that I had at convention for the NAACP. Jennifer Lawson, who is just dynamic and just as much of a traveler as I am. Bob Moses, who I sit at the feet of. I went to the James Lawson Institute and had the privilege of learning under his service. And so I am soaking all that up. And if I can, you know, I have to search for these things because I did not learn who any of these heroes were when I was in school. I lied to you not, and people think I joke when I say this, and it's kind of embarrassing. I didn't know who the late, great John Lewis was until I got to DC.
Wow.
I went to public school all in California, and I do not remember learning anything about John Lewis, not even hearing his name. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, I heard them. But John Lewis, I did not know the depth of his legacy. And it was when I got to DC, I found the book Walking with the Wind, written by John Lewis. And that book changed my life. And then I got to learn about Diane Nash and got to learn about Julian Bond, and then found out he's with the NAACP and all these, and it cracked a world for me. And Diane Nash being one of the leaders, it's funny, I don't know if she knows this. The first time I actually had an interaction with Diane Nash, I worked for the Energy Action Coalition as their conference director. And they were inviting her to come and speak. And so I had to reach out to her like via email to ask her, can she be a part of the program? And she couldn't make it that time, but whatever. And I was like, this is dope. This is the woman that I read in the book. She's like alive and she's here and she's breathing and she can email me back. This is crazy. So that was dope. This time I am actually working for the Gathering for Justice, an incredible organization under the leadership of the incredible Harry Belafonte, who's turning 94 on March 1st.
Wow.
And they reached out to me. I'm helping them with their program. We're doing a surprise. It's not so much of a surprise anymore because it's public, but there's a surprise birthday party that we're doing for Mr. Belafonte. And so I reached out to Miss Diane Nash to record a video for Mr. Belafonte for his birthday. In the video, which I have the privilege of seeing before everybody else, she tells this incredible story about him and her and like one of the journeys that they took together to fight for civic engagement, to fight for policies that help Black folks with integration and et cetera. And so she said, I contacted her. She contacted us back. She'd be happy to do it. It's a 90-second video. She sent me the video. She sent me her headshot. And then she called me yesterday and she said, it was a number that I didn't recognize. And she said, hello. And I said, hi, who's calling? She said, this is Diane Nash. I was in the bathroom here at the hotel and I almost dropped all my shit. I was like, what in the world? I was like, yes, ma'am. And I was like, how can I help you? She said, I just want to make sure you got my video. I want to make sure the video looks good. I want to make sure you guys don't cut the video because I want the whole thing in there. I was like, ma'am, I would never dare to cut anything that you give me. Okay. I was like, it is a pleasure. I was like, and she was like, well, how can I watch the event? So we talked about that. She asked me who I was and I told her, I was the NAACP, et cetera, and that I've known so much about her and everything. And she said, that's wonderful. Right now she's doing great. She's with her family and her grandkids. She's been quarantining there because she wants to spend time with them. And she can't wait to tune in to celebrate Mr. Harry Belafonte on Monday. And I was like, this is so cool. She called me on myself. So it's the little things, even though it was small and logistic, like, I don't know, to be able to have access. I think it's the worst thing in the world when our young people find out about such true heroes after they pass and then they get to learn about them. And so I think it's our job to do that as educators, as trainers, as people who do movement building work, to honor it and ground it in our history by bringing forth the people who are still here and who are not with us anymore. And Diane Nash is one of those people. So I don't know, it got me giddy. I don't get excited. I met President Obama. I was like, whatever. But Diane Nash popped on my phone. I'm like, oh, it's a different day.
Because that's the work. Obama's a politician. Diane Nash was in them streets.
That's right.
Rolled up them sleeves. And, as I'm listening to you again, I know 50 years from now, somebody's going to be like Tiffany D. Loftin called me, because the ability to hand the baton over to somebody and understand that this is a temporary space. Your job is to run your leg of the race and then hand that baton so that we can get further. That has been missed. And that's what I was disappointed about for the last 40 years. It's like people wanted to hold on to power and not cultivate the next generation. And you guys, this generation of young folk, are doing it. So if someone is young right now, and what I see in you is gratitude, humility, a sense of self and purpose, there seems to also be like not a lot of guidance, because the folk who are older, with a few exceptions, again, want to hold on to that power, and they haven't groomed the young people coming up. What can you tell someone who wants to get into this work about how to manage? I love that you're caring for yourself. Please sit in that soil and that sand and that water for as long as you need to, because we need you out here. What can you tell them about this work and how to be effective?
Thank you. I'm coming up with this theory about why our elders, Jeff Johnson did a speech for my students my first year at the NAACP, and he said there's a difference between elders and old people. And I'm very intentional about how I use the phrase. And so I think there are old people who have titles, who won't leave them because that's the only thing that makes them relevant, or they only feel like their identity is connected to that title. And so for young folks, I teach and show them by example that we are actually not the titles. We're not the organization. We're not how much money you have in your bank account. We are the folks who have talents and skills and experiences and stories and visions that can change the world, and that will. And so what I want to share, if anybody's wanting to get into this work, I'd say a few things. One, it's like my major. I didn't know what I wanted to major in college until like the last year. And then when I told my counselor I didn't know what I want to major in, he's like, let's just look at all the classes that you enjoyed. And then whatever those were, we'll pick that as the major. I said, that sounds great. I think getting involved in this work is the same. You said it earlier. We choose the work. Sometimes, unfortunately, I think this work chooses us. I don't think that our queen, who just recently celebrated a birthday, Sabrina Fulton, chose to be a part of the movement. I think the movement chose her. And so it was.
For those who don't know, Trayvon Martin's mom.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Trayvon Martin's mother, yeah. Sabrina Fulton. For me, I didn't get involved in this work because necessarily some violence happened to me first. I chose it because I saw injustice happening to a different community. And I said it wasn't right, and I wanted to figure out what to do about it. I have been practicing finding my voice in this work. I've been practicing being confident, being the only young Black woman who's bald-headed and platinum in rooms full of white men. I have been practicing what self-care looks like because I'm not an expert at it, but I'm working on it because I want to get it. I want to get it and understand it and do it good. I sit and listen at the feet of my elders. I read a lot. I ask a lot of questions. And so it looks like, that I know what it is that I want to do. And I actually wrote this in a caption. I don't think I am looking for or trying to find my purpose. If anybody saw the Disney movie Soul, that's what it's about. It's like the guy, Jamie Foxx, is playing this character that's trying to find his purpose in his life. And it's like, at the end of the movie, we realize, actually, your whole life is what should be celebrated, and you should enjoy the entire thing. And so my caption said, I don't think I'm trying to find my purpose. I think I'm just doing the work that God wants me to do when he wants me to do it. And that, to me, takes the pressure off of trying to be the next so-and-so, or takes the pressure off of me trying to impress people with the work that I'm doing because of how many followers I have on social media. Or I give myself the space to say, what can I change? How can I change it? And let me follow through with doing that. Not just go out and protest, not just post to social media. If I'm gonna address something or want to work on something, I have to follow through and finish it. So anybody who's looking to get into that work, it is a compilation of all of those things. It's a combination of learning. It's a combination of taking care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself in this work. And it's a combination of finding what issues matter to you the most, and then following through on what those issues are, and not just jumping around because of whatever President Derek Johnson, my former boss, he says, don't just follow the ambulance. Don't follow every murder. Don't follow every problem in the city. The last thing I'll say for advice for people is I think about like how I say, we choose this work or the work chooses us, and how we have to follow through with it. Sometimes when the work chooses us, it's about an issue that happens to Black people. If it happens to me or to women, right, then that's my issue. I want to encourage every single person to do that and find a community that you have no connection with. I do not identify as undocumented. I've never been an immigrant. But that is the community that I felt personally connected to. It's who I had a relationship with. It's who I had proximity to. It's who I decided to learn more about. And I have been fighting for immigration reform and the DREAM Act for the last 12 years, right? I've said I'm going to give whatever I have freely to that agenda and to that work, even though I don't identify with it. So yes, get involved in all the things that like matter to you and your community, but find that one thing or that one community that you have no understanding of, no proximity to, no recollection of, and then just listen. Like, go on a rabbit hunt and find, I hate that phrase, sorry, but go down a rabbit hole and find all the books, all the people, all the organizations that focus and do that work, and then give your talent freely to that agenda. And if we do that together as young people, I think we're going to be able to select our next president and our next Congress member and our next city council member and school board supervisor and et cetera, who match those values, because we're exposing ourselves to people who are not in our work.